This is my Neo bike. Oh dear. Now, let me get a proper look at it here. Neo bike they were a company based in China, and they manufactured and sold Brompton bikes under license. They did it very well. They were very successful. Unfortunately, they forgot to pay Brompton the money that Brompton were supposed to get. And so to make a long story short, a few of the directors of Neo Bike ended up in jail. Not for very long. It was just a nominal jail sentence, but so that's you can read the full history on Wikipedia, of course. But anyhow, they proceeded to produce a whole variety of Brompton bikes under different brand names, and they would modify those bikes a little and claim that they weren't Brompton, they were their own design and all that, but all you had to do was look at these bikes and realise they were all Bromptons. And they were using Brompton tooling, or tooling that Brompton gave, that tooling that Brompton gave them. So it was basically a whole rip-off. Now this particular one was obviously intended for the British market, and it's branded under the name Neo Bike. Now when I bought this, it was a single speed bike when I bought it, and it had a really cheap tatty saddle, really cheap plastic tatty handlebar grips, and it's a little bit grubby now, it needs a clean, but it was much grubbier when I bought it. I got it in a charity shop, and it was folded up and the saddle was weighed down, and I thought it was a child's bike at first. I thought it was a cheap sort of kiddie's bike that you see outside charity shops all the time. But I noticed the frame. I remember looking at the frame and thinking, now that decal, that wasn't there. I put that on myself. But I remember being struck by the frame that it reminded me of a Brompton frame, a straight version of a Brompton frame. And it looked quite good quality. But otherwise it looked like a cheap kiddie's bike. A piece of junk, in other words. So I just came home, had a cup of coffee, but I couldn't get the frame out of my mind. So I went over and had a proper look at the bike, and then I realised it was an adult's. And I had a good look at the frame, and I thought, no, this is an interesting bike. So I bought it. It was only €5. It was only when I got home I noticed the branding on the front, the Neo Bike branding. Now since then I've had a 6-speed hub put on it, and of course a Brooks saddle and that type of thing. And it's a great little bike. Now the 6-speed I have on it, this was a slow bike when I first got it. You're pedaling quite fast and you're moving, excuse me, relatively slow. Very slow compared to a Mezzo here, a Mezzo bike. But with the 6 speeds now, it means they're all relatively slow gears, if I could put it that way. But it means you can take this bike up the steepest hill imaginable with a gale force wind in your face, and it is effortless. It's a great little bike. And of course, it's a lot slower than maybe your standard folding bike. But in practical terms, I've been using this now for the last couple of weeks because I got a couple of punctures in my other bikes. But in practical terms, when I'm going into town, maybe a 2 kilometre or mile-and-a-half journey, uh, in practical terms, I get into town just as fast, or pretty much just as fast. So the speed is actually fine. Now, as I said, it's a little bit grubby, and well, we're in lockdown here in Dublin. We've had a lockdown has been reimposed just the last couple of days, so everything is closed. So over the next couple of days, I'll give it a good polish up. But now my default bike, this is my number one bike. This is my, if you like, serious bike. This is a Mezzo D10. Now, if you see one of these and you're thinking of buying it, my message is grab it. They don't make these anymore. There's a company called Ori, and they make similar type of bikes, but not this particular model. And they're great bikes. And I've owned a Brompton myself. I've owned all sorts of bikes, but this is, this is a wonderful, the Mezzo D10. It's a wonderful bike. Wonderful bike. I can honestly say it's one of the best things I ever bought. You know, when you're buying consumer goods, sometimes they're not so good, sometimes they're all right, but occasionally you buy something and you think, wow, this is good quality. This is good. This is the best thing I ever bought. So, Mezzo bike, buy one, grab one, preferably a D10. But this little this Nia bike, as I've been using it for the last couple of weeks now, because this one has a puncture and this one has a puncture, and because the wheels are small, means the tires are very, very tightly fitted, and I find them hard to remove. So I'll drop those down to a repair shop, have the puncture done in a few days. But anyway, I've been using this for a few weeks now, and normally what I will do is I'll use my Mezzo D10. That's my default bike. But every 6 months or so, I'll stop using it and I'll use this just for change. And I love this little bike. You know, they're a rip-off. You know, there's a rip-off. There's a lot of aspects of it which are cheap and not of the same quality as Brompton. But for all its quirks and that sort of thing, they're still great little bikes. Good solid little bikes. So so there you are. Now just see this particular bike. Let me see. Where is it? What am I looking at here? Hang on. What? Yes, there. Alfred Murray. So presumably that's a bicycle shop in the UK. So there you are. It's gone out of focus. So there you are. That's the story of my Mezzo, or my Neo bike. Good little bikes. If you see one around the right price, grab them. But now this is I've gotten the model number on this. I think this is a D4 or something 4. And I think it's a 4-speed bike. I've forgotten exactly. I use this quite a lot. And it's a good bike and no problems. It has a puncture, that's why it's there. But this Mezzo, these are built like a tank. You could take a sledgehammer to these. And it's a nice fast bike. I'd say a little faster than a Brompton. But great bikes. Absolutely great. I recommend them without reservation. So there you are. That's the story of my Nia bike. And the history is fascinating. You check on YouTube to read about it. So there you are. Thank you for watching. And please do subscribe.